the growing anger among family members following the government's latest measures to tackle rising fuel costs. Of course, we were joined about that on the show yesterday by Cathal Crowe and Donna McGettigan, two of our TDs. And while some supports have been announced, many carers say they've effectively been left out despite facing higher energy use at home and mounting bills. And joining me now to discuss this in studio is Karen Griffin, a family carer of two daughters in Kildysart. Karen, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you, Alan, for having me.
So, I think it'd be fair to say, but certainly going on the sample size of the many listeners who got in touch with Morning Focus, that there was near universal disapproval of the measures announced by the government. What was your immediate reaction to the energy supports, the cuts they made?
It's not enough. It's nowhere near enough. I think when you look at the reality of the situation, the cost of diesel, petrol, home heating oil, electricity, everything has skyrocketed, and the effect that it has on people, especially the most vulnerable in society, who are the people who need the most supports, and they're not given it. They're not given enough in any way, shape or form. And for the cuts that were made are just, they're not enough. They won't have an impact on people's lives enough to actually help them where they need it. Like trying to get to and from places where you have to go, you have to bring your people who need hospital appointments, who need therapies, who need everything like that, you know. And you're trying to figure out how do I afford that now, you know? And it's those things, the realities of the situation aren't taken into context at all. You know, they're just not. And like it's great to see an effort being made to try and, you know, improve the situation for people, but it just isn't enough because it's not effective. It's just not.
And speaking of being ineffective, I mean, I know myself, I stopped on the way here for petrol, and even with the cuts that were brought in, the 20 cent on diesel and the 15 cent on petrol, the service station I stopped at, the diesel was still at 212 and the petrol I bought was nearly 190.
Yep.
So even though they have seen those excise cuts, it's still, you think back to just 4 weeks ago. Yeah. It still, it doesn't feel like there's been any reduction.
No,
you know, I'm personally speaking here, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same. It still looks like an incredibly higher amount than we would have paid not too long ago.
Oh, it is. Like it just doesn't cut it. I mean, there are areas where they could cut the taxes on petrol and diesel a lot better than they have, you know, and like paying that sort of price for petrol and diesel when you need to be on the road all of the time, you have no choice but to be driving constantly, especially when you live a little bit further out from, you know, any services or appointments or anything like that. Paying those kind of prices, it's off the wall. It's absolutely off the wall, you know. And
can you give us a sense, Karen, of why it makes it, you know, it means more to you and it makes more of a negative impact, or has more of a negative impact on you? I mentioned you're a carer for two daughters. Can you give us, I suppose, a bit of background to, you know, them and what that entails, and I guess how much you need to be on the road, which is why you're really feeling the pinch.
Okay, so they've both been homeschooled for many years now. We homeschool both. They're both autistic, and they have a very rare genetic brain abnormality. They're actually only 2 of 10 people in the world known to have it.
In the entire world?
In the entire world that we know of, yes.
Wowzers, okay. Yeah. That really is rare, isn't it?
It is. So, like, over the years, we've had to travel to and from Crumlin. You know, you're all over the country, basically, seeing all sorts of doctors and therapists and trying to get whatever services you need. But when you put homeschooling into the mix as well, like my eldest daughter is in a day service in Ennis at the moment now, so she goes to that every single day. And then our youngest daughter, she's 17, she's full-time at home. So we're, you know, you're talking about getting her out and about into society, getting her into, you know, out doing various different things throughout the day to you keep her busy and entertained. You've got, what little services there are for people with disabilities. You've got to get to and from that. You've got to get to and from appointments. So we're in a situation now where you're looking at, can I afford to put diesel in the car to take her where she needs to be, or, provide for the girls what they need, in order to function and have a decent life.
And those choices, for some of us, it might be, a choice between, do I need to make this journey to go to, if I play sport of an evening or whatever.
Yep.
And if that, if you had to forgo that, that would be a negative impact on your life. But for you and your daughters, it's not as easy as saying, well, we can't bring them to this particular thing because given they're both autistic and dealing with what they're dealing with, and you're dealing with what they're dealing with, you, I presume, have to bring them to those. So then the cut or the impact is felt on your home life, be it groceries or in some other shape or form.
Everything. It impacts everything. Like you have to keep your structured routines. You have to be able to live your life in a way that the girls are getting their life fulfillments. They're enjoying their lives. They're happy. They're content. They're getting to and from appointments and that. And when you have to sit there and juggle, can I afford my shopping? Can I afford my electricity? Can I afford, anything? It could be anything at all. It could be the smallest thing in the world. And you have to make that choice on a constant basis every single day now at this point. Like, you're kind of sitting there thinking to yourself, like, what am I going to do? What am I really going to do here? Because, the girls deserve to be able to have their life. They need to be able to get out and about. They need to be able to get to and from, their interests, their likes, their hobbies, their appointments, whatever it might be. They have to have that. And now you're kind of sitting there going, how do I do that? How am I going to balance? My electricity bill is so high. It's insane. Like, it's actually. And
are you worried that any progress they have made in their lives, there could be regression there?
Oh, definitely, definitely, yeah. Like if you have to say, well, we can't do this, that or the other, that has a dramatic impact. Like you're dealing with meltdowns, you're dealing with everything is disrupted, and you're trying to keep a balanced, healthy household. Yet the smallest little thing like that, the smallest interruption can just send everything into chaos, and it can spiral, The impacts of these things are, they're so huge, they're enormous, to families like ours who are trying everything they can to provide, a decent life for their children who deserve every bit of everything that you can give them, And I don't think people fully understand how difficult it can be when you make the choice to be, the full-time carer, the full-time homeschooling and all of that.
We've heard before, Karen, from family carers, it's exhausting. It is 24/7, and I don't know what level, if any, respite you receive.
No, we don't.
None.
We don't. No, we don't. Unfortunately, we were provided respite for a while for our eldest daughter when we lived in Wexford, and then we were told that when we were moving over to Clare, we were told that we'd be provided the same services. And then when we moved, we weren't provided it because they weren't profoundly disabled enough, was what we were told. So, which is bizarre, but yeah.
I'm sure you mentioned there are two of only 10 people.
Yes,
in the
I did. Yes.
More than once. That didn't gain any traction.
No.
Okay,
no.
Right. And an aspect of the conversation about the government announcement on yesterday's show was around the home heating oil, and it was a big aspect, of what people were texting in. I put it to Cathal Crowe, the squeeze middle kind of giving out. They always feel like any time measures are announced like this, or be it the budget, it's the squeeze middle who miss out. A lot of them would say, look, we don't qualify for the fuel allowance. What's the situation with full-time carers? I mean, do you qualify for the fuel allowance? And if not, are you worried, like so many seem to be, about the exorbitant rise in the cost of home heating oil?
We do get fuel allowance at home. It's €38 a week. It has no impact, to be honest. Like it makes no difference really. And no, we can't afford heating oil. There is no way I can get oil. We have a small bit of oil left in our tank at the moment, and we are holding on to it.
For dear life.
Can we turn it on now, or can we not? And that's a decision you have to make.
So is that €38 per week? Is that really about putting it towards like a bag of coal and a few logs rather than actually being able to...
Oh no, it makes no difference to anything apart from you might get an extra bag of coal or something like that, but otherwise it makes no difference.
So what are you going to do? What can carers do? Because we know practically 10% of the population is made up of family carers. It's a huge number.
Yep.
The government have said this is... We heard Simon Harris saying it'd be irresponsible to announce longer term measures, that we don't know what is going to happen with this conflict in the Middle East. It could quieten down soon. Certainly it's the noises Donald Trump is making, but we all know not to take him at face value.
Nope.
It could go on for considerably longer. And the government have said, look, we'll take a kind of monitor the situation. So these cuts are to last until the end of May. There could be something else to follow if we're still dealing with the same scenario. What can family carers like yourself do, or representative organisations, be it Family Carers Ireland or whatever? Is it just about lobbying the government that when the next potential set of measures come around at the end of May, that you'll see more understanding from them, or are you hopeful at all that you'll find it easier to deal with petrol, diesel, home heating oil costs?
To be honest, I think the only thing we can do is shout as loud as possible, and lobby as much as we can to try and get these things taken seriously. The dramatic impact, it's unbelievable how much of an impact this has on people who are already on the brink, trying to deal with being a family carer. I think, to be honest, I don't really have much hope that we'll get anywhere with it. I think things are going to keep spiralling, to the point where I don't know how we're going to be able to manage to live any kind of a normal life, going to and from things.
So is it about, what can you and your family do, Karen? Is it just about planning how you can tackle each week what you can and can't go to, or what you can and can't, where you have to make the cuts, be it in groceries or whatever, to ensure your two daughters still receive the same kind of care and attention that they have received up to this point?
Yeah, everything is about planning. You have to sit down and work out, okay, I can't do this thing this week. Like I myself would... I'll cut something out that I might need to do for myself, or, I'll try and reduce the amount of electricity used, or things like that. Trying to make cuts in other areas constantly, all of the time, so that you can provide what's needed.
There are calls for once-off payments for carers. Would you like to see? Presumably, you'd like to see that, but if it is a once-off payment, it would have to be a significant amount, not a fuel allowance €38 level.
No, it wouldn't. It would have to be a significant amount to make a difference. I know myself that a number of people are desperately in arrears with household bills and things like that, and these allowances, extending them, that's not going to make any impact on any of that. So something needs to be done, drastically needs to be done, whether it's cutting taxes on diesel and petrol, drastically cutting them, because over half the price of petrol and diesel is tax. There are areas that can be looked at that would make an impact.
Yeah, there's plenty of other taxes and levies on that litre of petrol and diesel, that is for sure. Well, we appreciate you investing in some diesel and petrol to get in here this morning to share your story with us. Conserve the rest of it though. And thank you for talking with us, Karen. Hopefully, as I say, some 500,000 family carers, that there will be strength in numbers, and collectively your voices will be heard by government, but I'm sure you won't be holding your breath on that.
Nope.
Karen Griffin from Kildysart, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you, Alan.